Hey guys, welcome back for another video. What we're going to be doing today is we'll be taking a look at our best bets for all of our top 25 matchups for week 9 of the 2024 college football season. We are going to go over every single game, break them down, try to predict who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what the final score will be, but we'll be focusing on our best bets. That's the money lines, the spreads, and the over-unders for all of these top 25 matchups. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, drop them below and I will respond. Every week, we go over every single college football game. We also do the same thing for every NFL game as well, breaking them all down and looking at the betting portion for every single matchup. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you are a sports fan, if you are a football fan, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're doing our best bets today for these top 25 matchups. We have a lot of them. Teams are starting to get deeper into conference play. The competition is stepping up. The games are becoming a lot more meaningful. Let's go ahead and get started. The very first one we have is actually a Thursday night game. On ESPN at 7:30, we have 5-1 Syracuse. If the Orange win this game, they will find themselves in the top 25 next week. They'll be playing undefeated number 19 Pitt, who comes in here. They are 6-0. Right now, Pitt is a slight favorite. 69.7% chance to win this game. They are 6-point favorites. The over-under in this matchup is 62.5. Like I said, both these teams are playing for a lot. Syracuse wants to get ranked. Pitt is undefeated in the ACC. They have a potential outlier shot, an underdog shot to make the ACC championship. They have Clemson later on the season, but Syracuse is a massive roadblock. They are one of the best passing teams in the nation right now. Kyle McCord is actually the second leading passer in all of college football next to Cameron Ward. Syracuse, they can let it up through the air. So he's closing in on 2,200 yards, 19 touchdowns, 6 picks, playing a lot better than he played for the Buckeyes last season. They averaged 33.8. He throws for 381.7 yards a game. They run for 104.3. They're just under 500 yards of total offense every game. Their defense gives up 24.7, 241.5 through the air, 126.3 on the ground. And Pitt, they have Holstein. They have a new scheme. Narduzzi's completely changed the offense. Holstein transfers over from Alabama, and they are lighting it up. They are giving up some points, but they can score with anyone in the nation right now. He's closing in on 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks. They average 40.8 points per game. That is really good. That is top 15 in the nation right now. They also throw for 321.3. They run for 175.5. So they're also averaging about 500 yards of offense per game. This game could easily turn into a shootout. Shootout means whoever has the ball last could easily win this one. They give up 23.5. They give up 263.8 yards to the air, 108.5 on the ground. They don't have the best secondary. There will be opportunities for the Orange to vertically push the ball down the field, but Pitt's fine with that because they are built to get into a shootout. Looking at the playmakers here for the Orange, they have Kyle McCord, they have Allen, they have Meeks. Pitt has Holstein, Reed, and they have Mumpfield. I have Pitt pulling out a close one. This game's going to go down to the end of the fourth. They win it 32-28. They do not cover that spread, and we're coming in just under. And our next matchup is a Friday night game at 10:30 p.m. It's a late one on CBS, but it's definitely worth it. If you are up that late, make sure to watch this one. We have number 17, Boise State, 5-1 versus 6-1 UNLV. They were previously ranked earlier this season. If they win this one, they will definitely find themselves back in the top 25 later next week. As of right now, Boise State is the favorite. They have a 62% chance to win this game. Slight favorites, 3.5-point favorites. That spread has actually moved up. The over-under here is 65.5. There's a lot riding on this game. The reason that I say that is whoever wins this game could potentially be the representative for the group of 5 in the playoffs. Right now, Boise State, they are the highest ranked group of 5 team. If things stay that way, they continue to win, they're going to be the representative in the final 12 for the playoffs. But UNLV, they want to upset them here. They want to take the lead. They want to swap with them in that top 25 ranking, and they are more than capable of doing it. So they had Sluka. He was the starting quarterback. They replaced him. They have not missed a beat at all with Williams at the quarterback position. He can sling it. He can run it. Right now, Boise State, they have Madsen at the quarterback position, closing in on 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. They They average 46.8, one of the best scoring teams in the country, a top 5 offense right now. They throw for 237.3. They run for 289.8, one of the best rushing teams, a top 10 rushing team. Keep the ball on the ground, suck up clock, drain the other team. They give up 26.2 points. They give up 308.3 through the air. There will be opportunities for UNLV to push the ball down the field. Boise is one of the worst secondaries, but they have the secret weapon, probably the Heisman front runner right now. They have Genty at the running back position, closing in on 1,300 yards through 6 games. He's on pace for 2,600 yards this season. He has 18 touchdowns, putting up video game numbers. This guy's a one-man machine. They're going to give it to him. They're going to give it to him often. Right now for UNLV, they average 43.6. They have Williams at quarterback, closing in on 900 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 picks. Has not been the starter the whole season. They're throwing for 189.4, running for 251.4. They also have a top 15 rushing team, so it's strength on strength. Who's going to be able to run the ball consistently for the most yardage? And they're giving up 22.6 yards on the ground. They do give up 300 through the air, so both teams have questionable secondaries, but we know this game is going to be decided in the trenches on the ground. But the running game does open up that play action. I have Boise State getting the win here, winning this one 38-28. I have them covering that spread, and I'm going with the over. It's a massive over here, but I think there'll be a lot of points here, and they'll cover that. The next matchup we're looking at is a Big Ten on Big Ten matchup on Fox at 12 p.m. We're now moving on to our Saturday slate of games. We have 5-2 Nebraska coming off of getting throttled by Indiana, but there's no way they're going to play that bad back-to-back weeks. Look for Matt Rule's team to respond and play a lot closer game. They'll be playing number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes, 5-1, coming off the bye week, fully rested, previously coming off of the loss to Oregon. They had a full week to work on some things, get the defense right. As of right now, the Buckeyes are the heavy favorites here, 96.5% chance to win this game. They are 25.5-point favorites. That's a massive spread for an in-conference game. The over-under is 48.5. Like I was saying, Nebraska is going to play a lot better, but them beating the Buckeyes, that's a big ask. I don't think that is going to happen, but Matt Rule has a very talented here, young team, very physical team on the line of scrimmages. Raiola will play a lot better. The defense will play a lot better, but can they go 4 quarters with the Buckeyes? Raiola right now closing in on 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 picks, and then you have Howard for the Buckeyes closing in on 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks. For Nebraska, they are averaging 25 points a game. They throw for 259.3. They run for 127.1. And they still have a top 20 defense. Even with the points that they gave up to Indiana, they are giving up 17.7 points per game. 220 through the air, 102.9 on the ground. And for the Buckeyes, they have a top 15 offense still right now. They can let it up. One of the most talented teams in the country. The number 3 overall roster in the nation right now. They average 43.5 points a game. They throw for 300.3. They run for 208.7. They can beat you passing the ball, running the ball. Defense, they're averaging 510 offensive yards per game. The number 1 defense giving up 11 points per game. They get after it. They brought back 8 starters from the number 3 defense last season, and they added to that through the portal. It's really hard to run on them. They only give up 86.3 on the ground. They shut the run down. You have to beat them vertically through the air. For Nebraska, they have Raiola, Dowdle, Banks, Buckeyes. They have Howard. They have Junkins. They have Henderson. They have Egbuka. They have Smith. Multiple weapons. I have the Buckeyes owning the second half. That's when they pull away, but Nebraska plays them close first half. I have the Buckeyes winning this one 38-17, but they do not cover the spread, and I'm going with the over. And our next matchup is one of our ranked-unranked top 25 versus top 25 matchups on ABC at 12 p.m. Number 12, Notre Dame, 6-1. They've done a lot to rebound from the NIU loss, but they have to make sure to take this opponent very serious. They'll be playing number 24, the Navy Midshipman, coming in at 6-0. Right now, Notre Dame a massive favorite, 91% chance to win this game. They are 13.5-point favorites. The over-under in this matchup is 51.5. This is an interesting game because Navy, they are undefeated. This is the best Navy team in a long time. They can run the ball. We all know that. But they're actually throwing the ball a lot this season. They're not just running the triple option. They are able to vertically push the ball down the field. Notre Dame is very banged up right now. They have a lot of linemen out. They have passing issues, but they can run the ball. and they have a top 10 physical defense. Right now, they are led by Riley Leonard. I've never been high on this guy at the quarterback position. 55% career completion percentage, but one thing he can do is he can scramble, he can throw on the run somewhat. He's a mobile quarterback. Keep the ball on the ground, run with him. He's closing in on 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. Navy has Horvath. He's doing great things at the quarterback position for them. He's closing in on 900 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. For Notre Dame, they have Denbrock, they have Golden, and they have Freeman. They have a very experienced veteran coaching staff. They're averaging 34.6 per game. They throw for 197. They run for 209.6. Very successful running team, even with the injuries on the offensive line. But it's that defense, a top 10 defense, only giving up 11.9 points a game. For Navy, they can score. They're averaging 44.8. They throw for 164.3. They run for 274.8, a top 5 running team in the nation. And their defense playing solid, giving up 19.7 points per game. Freeman cannot let this turn into another NIU game. He has to beat Navy here. They cannot afford a second loss. That will put them out of playoff contention. They have no conference championship. They have to win from this point out. Expect a steady dose of Leonard, Love, Collins, keep the ball on the ground. For Navy, Horvath, he has almost 700 yards rushing, so he's going to be doing everything for them. I have Notre Dame pulling it out. Their physicality should carry them through 4 quarters. They win this one on the ground, 33-20. That would be a push right now, but that line is probably going to move, and I'm going with the over. This next matchup is the tough Big Ten one, and this is a pretty hard one to call right now. On the Big Ten Network at 12 p.m., we have 4-3 Washington. They have a solid defense. They'll be playing 7-0 undefeated number 13 Indiana. What a season they've had. Nittany has a great squad here. He brought in a lot of transfers. They can score, and they play solid defense. Right now, they have a 83.9% chance to win this game. They are 6.5-point favorites here, and the over-under is 53.5. Now, the reason this is a pretty tough game to call is because Indiana and their quarterback, Rourke is not going to be playing this game. He actually hurt his hand in the last game versus Nebraska, so they're going to be going with Jackson in this matchup. He played great when he filled in. They were still able to throw the ball. They were still able to run the ball, but that's a massive loss. Rourke was lighting things up through the air, closing in on 2,000 yards this season, 15 touchdowns, 3 picks. Washington, they have Rodgers. He's an experienced veteran quarterback. He's also closing in on 1,900 yards, 13 touchdowns, 2 picks. Both teams can throw the ball. Both teams play solid defense, but Indiana has the number 2 overall offense right now. Right now for Washington, they average half of what Indiana averages. They average 24.1 points per game. They throw for 308.3. They run for 158.1. They have success moving the ball, but they do have issues in the red zone. But they have a solid top 20 defense, giving up 17 points a game. For Indiana, they're averaging 48.7 points per game. Like I said, that's number 2 in the nation right now. They throw for 316.6. They run for 202.4. They have a top 15 defense, giving up 13.7 points a game. For Washington, they have Rodgers. They have Coleman closing in on 700 yards. They have Jackson closing in on 600 yards. And for Indiana, they have Rourke. They have Ellison. They have Surratt, but they're going to be down Rourke. He's an experienced quarterback. He's their leader. He's out. So with him being out, Jackson played great, but that's the unknown. We don't have much film on him. We haven't seen him lead this team for games. Washington now has had a full week to prepare for Jackson being under center. So I have the upset here. I have Washington pulling this one off, beating Indiana 23-20. This game is going to be close. Both teams have great defenses, so I'll go with the veteran quarterback on the Washington side for now. And then the next matchup we have is some SEC on SEC play on ESPN at 12 p.m. We have 4-3 Oklahoma Sooners versus number 18 Ole Miss sitting at 5-2. They had a lot to work on. They were able to get some rest. Right now, Ole Miss is a heavy favorite. They come in with an 88% chance to win this game. 20-point favorites here. The over-under in this matchup is 48.5. Ole Miss, they have to get the ship right. They have 2 losses in their last 3 games. But still, even then, everything is still in front of them. They can still finish the season 10-2. 10-2 out of the SEC will get you in the playoffs still, nonetheless. Oklahoma, they have a lot of issues. Brent Venables here, he really has to rally this team. They've completely fallen off the rails. They have a tough schedule. They fired Seth Luttrell. He's the offensive coordinator. Now they have a new coordinator calling plays. That's a massive change. That's completely switching things up. What are they going to do at the quarterback position? Will it be Jackson Arnold? Willoughby Haskins. Does it matter who plays quarterback for them? Neither of them have played particularly well this season. Neither of them can push the ball, get first downs, score. Right now, the Sooners, they only average 22.1 points a game. They throw for 202. They run for 112.7. This is the number 11 overall roster. They're only averaging 22 points a game. Yes, they have a lot of injuries. Their top 5 wide receivers out. They are banged up. The one thing they do have going for them is they have a solid defense, giving up 21.3 points a game, and they're top 10 in sacks right now. For Ole Miss, they are stacked number 1 transfer portal class. They have a lot of veteran players. Right now, Jackson Dart leading the way, closing in on 2,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks. They average 41.4 points a game. They have a top 15 offense right now. They can throw it. They can run it. They average 373.7 through the air, 200.6 on the ground, almost 600 yards of total offense. And they have a top 10 defense, giving up 10.6 points a game. They have Dart. They have Parrish closing in on 500 yards. They have Trey Harris through 7 games closing in on 1,000 yards receiving. This is a team that can throw it. They can run it. They play defense. I have Ole Miss winning this one, 34-17, but not covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. This next matchup is a ranked Big Ten on Big Ten matchup on CBS at 3:30. We have number 20, the 6-1 Fighting Illini versus number 1, our new number 1 team, or the Oregon Ducks, 7-0, undefeated. Right now, the Ducks have a 91.4% chance to win this game. Heavy favorites here, 21.5-point favorites. That spread has been moving a lot, but it started coming down because I said when it was at 25, that's way too high for an in-conference matchup. Both teams with good defenses. The over-under here is 54.5 for Illinois. This is a Michigan type of team. Brett Bielema, physical, trench warfare, line of scrimmage built team. They want to beat you at the line of scrimmage. They want to out-physical you. But one thing they have that Michigan doesn't is they have a quarterback. They have Luke Altmaier closing in on 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 1 pick. They average 29.6 points a game. They throw for 237.4. They run for 146.3. They're only giving up 18.1 points per game. That's a top 20 defense. But Oregon, the number 5 overall roster, they are loaded at every position. They have Dylan Gabriel, who's now put himself back into that Heisman conversation, closing in on 2,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 picks. They're averaging 34.6. They throw for 311.3. They run for 158.3. They can match you at the line of scrimmage on both the defensive and the offensive side, and they're only giving up 16.6 points a game for the Fighting Illini. They have Altmaier, Fegan, Bryant, but Oregon has the weapons. Gabriel, Jordan James closing in on 800 yards. They have Trey Johnson. They have Stewart. Multiple ways they can beat you passing, running, and defense. I have Oregon winning this one 37-18, so still not covering the spread, just barely, and I'm going with the over. And our next game is a Big 12 on Big 12 matchup on ESPN at 3:30 p.m. We have number 11 BYU undefeated, 7-0. They'll be playing 3-4 UCF, who's a lot better than the record. You don't want to sleep on this team. This is a very talented roster under Gus Malzahn, but they've been switching and swapping quarterbacks the whole season. KJ Jefferson, Brown. We don't even know who's going to be under center this game, but we do know they're going to run the ball, and they're going to run the ball successfully. BYU lives off the turnovers. BYU is number 11. They're actually the underdog in this game. So it's UCF who comes in 2-point favorites. The over-under is 55.5, and they have a 54.6% chance to win this game. This is going to be a good game. This is an under-the-radar game where a top 11 team could potentially go down this weekend. BYU, they average 34.9. They throw for 249.7. They run for 156.7. And their defense, solid, only giving up 19 points a game. But they're living off the turnovers. If they don't get turnovers, can they still win the game? UCF will run the ball. For them, hopefully that will cut down turnovers. Right now, they're averaging 31.3. They throw for 201. They run for 280.3. That's a top 5 running team in the country right now. And their defense is giving up 25.7 points per game. Looking at the skill position players for BYU, everything revolves around Retzlaff. He's closing in on 1,700 yards passing. He's the leading rusher, closing in on 300 yards. That's their weaknesses. They don't have a true running back. They are pretty banged up there. But if you can't consistently run the ball in close games, you could lose that game. And for UCF, they have R.J. Harvey closing in on 900 yards. He's the top 5 running back in the nation. And they have Hudson. I have BYU pulling out this close one here, though. Getting the win, the upset, winning this one 33-26. The spread not being covered, and I'm going to go with the over. The next matchup is an SEC ranked top 25 versus top 25 at 3:30 p.m. on ABC. We have number 21, the Missouri Tigers, 6-1. They'll be playing number 15, Alabama, 5-2, the highest ranked two-loss team in the nation. Right now, Bama is the favorites. They come in 13.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 53.5. This is going to be a fun game. The reason that I say that is both teams have things they need to work on. Missouri has had a couple rebound games since their Aggies lost. Right now, they're going to be led by Cook. This is a very talented team. They have a top 20 offense. They have a top 20 defense. Cook is closing in on 1,600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. He showed heroics last season, came back from the hospital fourth quarter, won the game for the Tigers. Props to them. They average 31.7. They throw for 261.7. They run for 172.3. Very balanced team. It's their defense that should keep this game somewhat close. They only give up 15.6 points a game. But Alabama, they love to score, but they also give up their fair share of points. Right now, they are led by Milroe, who's had a pretty sloppy last 3 games. He's closing in on 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks. Alabama cannot afford to drop another one, to drop to 5-3. They're definitely going to be feeling the heat. People are bashing them right now, but this is a game that they can win, try to get things back on track. This is a good, solid win. This would be the win that you need to kind of catapult you forward back towards a potential run towards that SEC championship and possibly the final 12 to make the playoffs. They average 38.1. They throw for 276.6. They run for 164.3. The worst defense they've had statistically since 2004, giving up 21.3 points a game. For the Tigers, they have the skill position players. Cook, Noel, Weiss Jr., Burden. They have the weapons to be able to stay in this game, make it a close one. Alabama, they have Milroe, they have Miller, they have Ryan Williams closing in on 700 yards. They need to generate a better running game. They need a 1,000-yard running back. They need to get physical at the line of scrimmage. They've lost their physicality on both sides. That's what's held them back, and they really need to work on that defense. I have Alabama pulling this one out, though. 34-20, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. And our next matchup is another ranked SEC on SEC game. On the SEC Network at 4:15 p.m., we have number 5 Texas Longhorns 6-1 playing number 25 Vanderbilt 5-2. I said when Vanderbilt upset Alabama, they should have been ranked that very next week. They finally put them in the top 25 this week, and unfortunately for them, they now have to play Texas. So if they lose this game, they're going to get thrown right out of the top 25. Right now, the Longhorns heavy favorites here, 90.5% chance to win this game. They are 18.5-point favorites. The over-under is 52.5. Texas is coming off of losing to Georgia. They played awful first half. The worst first half of Texas football I've ever watched. They did rebound second half, but it was too late at that point. Has Steve Sarkisian, have they gotten everyone to rebound, gotten everyone back on track? Everything is still in front of them. They only have one conference loss. They can still make the SEC championship. They are still going to make the playoffs. That's not a problem. Right now, they have Ewers closing in on 1,200 yards. He has 11 touchdowns, 4 picks, and he missed 3 games. There's no quarterback controversy here. He will be getting the start. Texas, they average 39.1. They throw for 308.1. They run for 166.1. A top 10 defense, one of the best defenses in the nation, giving up 9.7 points a game. They are physical, and they love to shut the run game down. For Vanderbilt, they are led by Pavia, closing in on 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Vanderbilt has basically no turnovers. They play very consistent, low turnover football, but it's going to be hard to run on Texas. Right now, they're averaging 33.1. They throw for 214.4. They run for 162.1, and their defense is giving up 22.1 points a game. Everything revolves around Pavia. He's also the leading rusher, closing in on 500 yards. Texas, they have Ewers, they have Wisner, they have Bond. Too many weapons, and they have a point to prove. I have Texas coming out early, winning this one 38-17, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. And this next matchup is one of the best rivalries in college football. On ESPN at 7 p.m., we have the Florida State Seminoles 1-6. They started out the season top 10. Now they have to win out just to make a bowl game. They'll be playing number 16 Miami Hurricanes, undefeated 7-0. Right now, Miami has a 91.4% chance to win this game. A massive spread here for an in-state rivalry matchup. 21-point favorites. The over-under is 54.5. This is going to be a fun game because Florida State, they have a lot to prove, but they haven't scored more than 16 points in 5 straight games. They haven't scored more than 21 points the entire season. The issues all revolve around the offense. Whether it's DJU, Beck, it really doesn't matter who they put at quarterback. They cannot consistently move the ball and get first downs. But Miami has shown their secondary is so questionable. If you have any passing game, you will be able to move the ball here. But Florida State, they just don't have the passing game. Right now, they come in, they're only averaging 15 points a game, 220.3 through the air, 72.9 on the ground. It's very hard to run on Miami anyways. One of the best rush defenses. And Florida State, running was supposed to be their strength. It's actually one of their weaknesses right now. Their defense is giving up 25 points a game, 172 given up on the ground every game. They were supposed to have the best rushing defensive line in the nation. They actually have one of the worst statistically right now. For Miami, they're led by Cameron Ward, the guy who's number 2 in the Heisman projections right now, closing in on 2,600 yards. He leads the nation in passing yards. He leads the nation in passing touchdowns, 24 passing touchdowns, 5 picks. Miami, the number 1 offense in the country also. They average 48.3. The top passing team, they throw for 400.6 yards. One of the better rushing teams, they run for 188.9. They're averaging over 600 yards of offense every game. They give up 22.6. The way to beat Miami, vertically through the air, pushing the ball down the field. Secondary has been questionable. Maybe they can get things on track during the Florida State game, but that remains to be seen. Miami, they have Ward, Restrepo, Allen, Lyle, Horton, George, Arroyo, Williams, Fletcher, Martinez. So many weapons. They can beat you passing, running. They can beat you on defense. They're also top 10 in quarterback pressures and sacks. They should be able to eat here, feast. I have them coming out of the gate. Mario Cristobal wants to blow out Florida State. This is a revenge game, and they want to be state champs. They beat Florida. They want to beat Florida State. I have Miami winning this one 45-17, covering the spread, going with the over. This next game is an under-the-radar, sneaky Big Ten game at 7:30 p.m. on NBC. Number 3, Penn State, undefeated, 6-0. They'll be playing 5-2 Wisconsin. Do not sleep on the Badgers. Luke Fickell has this team back on track. They're back to Wisconsin football, lining up, running the ball down your throat, and they are doing that perfectly. Right now, Penn State is the favorite, 70% chance to win this game. They are 6.5-point favorites. The over-under in this matchup is 47.5. This is going to be a pretty fun game because both teams love to run the ball. Both teams play solid defense. Penn State, they are led by Drew Waller, closing in on 1,500 yards. He has 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. They have a new offensive scheme this season. They are better on offense, but Drew Waller, actually, that's the most picks he's ever thrown in his career. He's done it all this season, has actually doubled his career picks this season, but he still only has 4 interceptions. They're averaging 34.2 per game. They throw for 277.2. They run for 201.2. They have one of the best running back rooms in the nation, just right behind the Buckeyes barely. They have Allen, Singleton, a great 1-2 punch. They can stay fresh. They can stay healthy the whole game. They're going to line up. They're going to run it at you. And their defense is top 10 right now. They only give up 14.5 points a game, only 94.8 on the ground. But Wisconsin is going to test that number. It's strength on strength here. They have Locke closing in on 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. They're averaging 29 points a game. They're both pretty close there. They throw for 219, but they're running for 194. They were running the air raid earlier, but they've gotten back to what Wisconsin does, lining up, running the ball, and their defense is only giving up 17.6 a game. That's a top 20 defense. This game's going to be fun. This game's going to be physical. Who can own the line of scrimmage the best here? I think this game will be close. I think this game will be low scoring, but I think Penn State pulls it out fourth quarter. They win this one 27-20, so that's covering the spread, but just barely coming in under. And we have another ranked matchup, top 25 versus top 25 for the SEC at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. We have number 8 LSU 6-1. Since they lost to USC, they've completely rebounded. Defense is playing great right now. They're getting a lot of quarterback pressure, and they're one of the best passing teams in the country. They'll be playing number 14 Texas A&M Aggies, who come in here at 6-1. Since they lost to Notre Dame, they've also been playing a lot better. Great defense. They're running the ball really well. Right now, the Aggies are the favorites. They're the lower ranked team, but they're the favorite here. 2.5-point favorites. They have a 52.7% chance to win this game. The over-under in this matchup is 53.5. Looking at the matchup here team-wise, we know that LSU, one of the best passing teams in the nation right now, led by Nussmeier, closing in on 2,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks. They average 34.1. They throw for 325.9. They run for 128.3. Defense playing better. They were hovering around 24 to 25 points per game. They've worked that number down to 20.6. Props to Blake Baker. Props to Brian Kelly. Right now for the Aggies, this is a Mike Elko team. He's completely flipped this team to what he wants. They have the number 6 roster. They play defense. They run the ball. They're extremely physical and talented. They have 2 quarterbacks, Reed and Wegman. Wegman should be getting the nod here. They average 31.4 per game. They throw for 192.6, one of the best rushing teams in the nation, running for 218.6 yards per game. Defense top 20, giving up 17.7 points per game. They're going to try to get a lot of pressure on Nussmeier, try to force him into some turnovers, but that's definitely easier said than done. For LSU, they have Nussmeier, they have Durham, they have Lacey. Lacey's been making massive catches recently. For the Aggies, they have Moss closing in on 700 yards on the ground. They have Thomas. I have the Aggies winning a really close one, 30-27, covering the spread, going with the over. This is a 50-50 game. This game could go either way. Whoever has the ball last could easily win this game, but it could come down to a fourth quarter turnover. Whoever turns the ball over fourth quarter, that's who's going to lose this game. And our second to last game is one of our in-state rivalries on ESPN2 at 8 p.m. 2-5 Kansas. This team was projected as one of the finalists to win the Big 12. They've completely gone the opposite way this season. They'll be playing number 16 Kansas State, 6-1. Kansas State having a great season, talented team. They can run the ball. Right now, Kansas State is the favorite. They are 10-point favorites. That's a pretty big spread for an in-state rivalry matchup. The over-under here is 55.5. They have a 75.2% chance to win this game. Looking at Kansas, this is a team with Jalen Daniels. He was finally healthy this season. He was going to take him to the promised land. Every season he got hurt, kept this team from getting to the top, winning the Big 12. Now he's healthy, and he's just having an awful season so far this season. Closing in on 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. Kansas, they average 30.4 per game. They throw for 202.6. They have a very good run game, closing in on 214.4 rush yards per game. Their defense giving up 24 points a game. The saving grace they have Grimm at wide receiver. They have Devin Neal, one of the best running backs in the nation, but he cannot carry this team. He's closing in on 700 yards on the ground. For Kansas State, very disciplined, well-coached team. They have Avery Johnson at the quarterback position, the highest recruited player in Kansas State history. And he's mobile. When he runs with purpose. He's closing in on 1,500 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks. If he has a clean game here, he can have a solid game. They are coming off of a long road trip, back-to-back wins there versus very solid teams. They're glad to be home. They're averaging 33.3. They throw for 214. They run for 222.9. Their defense gives up 20.6. The way to beat Kansas State is through the air. They give up over 275 passing yards per game. Horrible secondary, but they only give up 83 rushing yards. So even though they get blitzed nonstop through the air, they shut down the run game. They're going to look to shut down Neal. They have Johnson. Giddens closing in on 900 yards on the ground. He's a top 5 running back right now. He can carry this team. They have Brown at wide receiver. He makes the big catches in the big moments. I have Kansas State winning this one. 28-23, not covering the spread and just slightly going with the under. And our final matchup is an ACC game on the ACC Network at 8 p.m. Number 22 SMU. They are 6-1. I said they should have been ranked to start this season, but they're ranked now. They don't play Miami. They don't play Clemson during the regular season. They actually have a pretty easy schedule going forward. They could be an underdog to potentially make that ACC championship game. They'll be playing 6-1 Duke. If Duke wins this game, they will be in the top 25 next week. Props to Manny Diaz. This is a very solid team. Right now, Duke is the underdog, though. SMU comes in 11.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 48.5. They have a 76% chance to win this game. This is two teams that like to do two different things. SMU, they are flashy. They can light it up through the air. On the ground, Duke, they play solid, aggressive defense. Right now for the Mustangs, they have Jennings, who stepped in for Stone. He's closing in on 1,400 yards. He has 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. They're averaging 40.7 points a game, throwing for 248.3, running for 199.6. Solid team with a very balanced offense, averaging close to 500 yards per game, and a great defense, giving up 20.6 points a game, only 87 yards on the ground. But Duke, this is a aggressive, defensively focused team. They have Murphy coming in. He's the transfer from Texas, closing in on 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks. They average 25.9, but they're going to keep the game close because they have that defense. They have 223.4 through the air, 112.4 on the ground, and their defense is only giving up 17.3 points a game. That is solid. That's going to keep them in this game up to the fourth quarter. But I think the fourth quarter, that's when SMU starts to pull away, probably gets a turnover. That's when that changes the outcome of this game. They have Jennings, they have Smith, they have Maryland. For Duke, they have Murphy, Thomas, and Moore. 2 solid teams, very similar talent-wise, but I have SMU ultimately getting the win here, 34-20. I have them covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. So that's our breakdown, our prediction, and all of our best bets for all of our top 25 matchups. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below, and I will respond. Thank you.